Hey friends, Gina here from Desperately Seeking Gina. Welcome back to my channel. I'm happy to share one of my favorite projects from last year. Today we're going to make these maple bag tags into some mixed media art using the sublimation ink pad, a stamp that I had in my stash, and some plain old copy paper. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to stamp that image onto our copy paper. Some tips for stamping. I like to actually pick up the stamp pad and apply the ink to the stamp in this manner so that I can see exactly where the ink is going and how much ink I'm getting. And then you don't want to press too hard when you stamp that image, and this allows for some really crisp lines. Something that I also found with using this sublimation ink is that if you let it dry a little bit when you stamp your image before using the markers, it doesn't bleed so much. So I've got my images stamped here. I let them dry for just a couple minutes before I start the coloring process. And here we are just using the markers to color just like you would when you were a kid, doing coloring books and things like that. So if you're new to sublimation and you're wondering how exactly this works, what happens is when you draw or color a design onto your plain copy paper, the heat source will then heat up that ink and turn it into a gas that dyes the sublimation blank that you're using. In this case, we're using maple bag tag. But you can use any kind of blanks that is polyester or a percentage of polyester. So if you use like something that's 75% polyester, 75% of your image is going to transfer to the blank. So you can see I'm just finishing up my design here. I was really quite happy. I'm kind of a newbie with coloring and things like that, so I'm not really confident with shading, but I really liked how this looked. And so I decided to go ahead and do a second one. And so the next part of the process is just putting that image face down onto our blank. And I kind of wanted a better idea of what this was going to look like, so I went ahead and cut that down a little bit. And the awesome thing about sublimation is that you can put this image on both sides of this maple bag tag. How fun is that? So you can see I'm using the heat protective tape to apply this image to the maple bag tag. And you want to use the heat protective tape for a couple reasons. One is that so your image doesn't move around in your sublimation sandwich when you put it into your heat press, so that you don't have any kind of ghosting or anything like that. And then the heat protective tape, of course, it heats up to 400 degrees, so we want to make sure that your tape is not going to melt all over your heat press. So this is the siliconized protective paper. I'm just cutting to make a little sandwich, one piece on the bottom, your blank with the image taped onto it, and one more piece of protective paper on the top. And there is your sub sandwich, as we like to call it. This heats up at 400 degrees for 45 seconds, and you can see a little bit of the ink came off the paper, so it's a good thing that the paper was there, or else all the ink might be on your heat press. And here's the big reveal. I love this. It's my favorite part. I always say it's like magic. Now this is an image sublimated right onto that maple bag tag. It's not going to fade. It's not going to rub off. It's just a beautiful image right on the bag tag. So now that that's cooled off and I was happy with the image, I decided to go ahead and apply that second part. I kind of wanted it to look like it was wrapping around to the back side, so I just repeated the process with the protective heat tape. Made another sub sandwich and heated it up once more. And since the reveal is always my favorite, I had to show you again. Perfect. I love how that looks. So I did a few, A couple of them I did double-sided, you can see. So then I wanted to take this up a notch and kind of really get into that mixed media artsy kind of look. And I remembered that I had this script stamp in my stash. So I'm applying some of the sublimation ink pad right onto that script stamp. And then I'm going to stamp that onto my plain copy paper once again. And when I was happy with that, I turned my blank or my maple tag over onto the image that I just stamped, and then I'm going to tape that to the blank. Again with the sublimation sandwich. On this one I used a bigger piece on the top and the bottom because I have that little bit of overhang there. You see that ink was larger than my image, or larger than my bag tag rather. And you want to make sure that that ink doesn't get all over your heat press or wherever you're pressing. And so here's the big reveal. I love how this turned out, and it's right there on the maple bag tag. It's not going to rub off. It's just a part of the tag now. How beautiful is that? I love how vivid the colors turn out. So I decided I wanted to take this a little further with the mixed media and add my favorite crafting supply, some pretty scrapbook paper. So I just trimmed to fit and I glued this down to the maple tag. And then I kind of wanted it to look like that butterfly was emerging from the paper. So after I had glued it, I ripped it and tore it and kind of sanded the edges. And then I sanded the front of it as well to kind of give it a distressed look and to make it look like the butterfly was ripping right off the tag and right through the paper. And then I sanded that again and inked the edges, and then I want to add some words here. And then I just repeated the process for the back of the tag. Just a layer of glue and some paper, and sanding it down again. I love how tearing the paper just made it look like it was popping right off the bag tag. Then I wanted to add some more words to the back, and I thought I would do fly away for the back because it was emerging on the front and then flying away. You can see I misspelled away, so I just went with the distress theme and sanded that off. Used my little pick to scrape away the word because it just didn't look good after I had done it a second time, so I just decided to use the word fly. So there you have it, my finished mixed media bag tags using iron-on ink. I hope you enjoyed.
If you liked this tutorial and found it helpful, tap that like button and subscribe for more creative inspiration.